I'm thrilled to be standing here as a fellow, and I'm thrilled for lots of different reasons, and you'll see the journey that I've taken since I was granted my fellowship and since I came back. And it's still going, even to this morning when I was talking to the general boilermakers about what my journey entails and what I've learned. I went to look at innovative community projects that address school holiday hunger, and the reason that I did that was because of my background. I am a nurse, but I'm also a bit of a community activist when it comes to inequality and hunger. And I had thought long and hard about, I've been involved in school meals for about 15 years, but I twigged on some of the journeys that I've been going to America that children on free school meals don't actually get free school meals when the school holidays are on. And there are 170 days in the year when our free school meals children are going hungry. And there are lots of different impacts on that to our communities. Pressure on household budgets. You'll have seen everything that happens in the TV now about food banks, and we've got, I think, almost 2,000 food banks now in this country. And in fact, the fact that there are 2,000 food banks and there's more food banks than there is branches of the RBS tells you something about what's happening in the country at the moment. Benefit delays and sanctions, school readiness, safeguarding, all these kind of issues. And families are reckoning, the Children's Society said it was between £30 and £40 extra a week for families on budgets, and that's a lot of money for families to find. We are also part of the United Nations Convention, and part of that convention is that children have the right to food. So I had been lobbying government a little bit about why we should be providing free school meals, and of course I was getting, get evidence, we want evidence of how we should make change happen. And I found out that America has a 25-year policy on delivering summer meals, which is paid for by federal government. So I wanted to go and find out about that, and a previous fellow had told me about the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust and said, you should apply. So I remember that joy, as I'm sure many of you would have, when it came through and said that I'd been awarded a fellowship, and I can't tell you how inspiring and humbling the whole journey was. The people that I met, the kids that I talked to, the lunch ladies that I spoke to, the trips that I did, and this was some of the things that I did. I originally wanted to go to 4 US states. I ended up going to 9. In 37 days, I visited 11 sites of Summer Meals Programme, 2 growing sites, cooking projects as well were in amongst them, 2 conferences. I did 58 interviews as part of my fellowship as well. And one of the other things, I was very lucky to go to a Senate hearing on feeding children, American children well. The senator actually asked me if I wanted his autograph, but I declined. So I saw a couple of food banks, and the whole system is completely different in America as well. I went to an award ceremony, and one tip I would definitely give you is contact the British Embassy where you are going, because I did that beforehand and I got a whole bunch of freebies, including pin badges, flags, footballs, just you name it. They very kindly sent them to all the places I was going, and everywhere you went, give the kids a little Scotland and America pin badge from the Scottish government. They thought it was really, really cool. So definitely write to them. They want to promote the best of the UK, so please write to them and say that you're going. You'd be surprised at the support they can offer you. So those were the places that I went to, and I should really be wearing my bright yellow bus stop t-shirt, because I definitely have got the t-shirt. You know, when they say you've been there, done that, I've definitely got the t-shirt as well. It was wonderful. That was me meeting the senator, and that was the journey that I took, and those were some of the kids that I met. Some of the pictures that you see there, the top left-hand side, was low-income young adolescents who were bright, but whose parents couldn't afford to send them to university. If they volunteered at the Summer Meals Programme, after so many years, they were eligible for a bursary to go to university. What an amazing thing. There's lessons for us to be learnt in that as well. And they were really young, committed young adults as well. The bus, everywhere you went, there was little signs that told you that there was a Summer Meals Programme on. And the more that I went through this journey, the more I thought, this is possible for our country. We can do this. America, 8 million meals delivered last summer to children and families. It was from the age of 2 to 18 that they delivered these summer meals. And I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. Families queuing for food that was provided by government. The bus stop cafe was the best thing ever, and I wish that we had one of these. This was an old decommissioned school bus. It had Wi-Fi, it had a sink, it had a cool box, and then they went out and delivered 500 meals a day to the sort of rural areas as well. The most precious picture, I think, is the one, and sometimes it makes me cry when I look at this picture, is of the wee boy getting a hug from the lunch lady. He knew that lunch lady. There was that established relationship. So it wasn't just about the food. It was about the relationship between that child and that lunch lady, where that hug was just as important as the food was. So I learned a lot about relationships as well. So I thought I knew about stuff when it came to school meals, but there was much more to the whole system there. But it was very much about feeding. The community benefits that I learnt from going to America were these, and the opportunities for employment for the UK citizens, I think, was something that traditionally the 13 weeks were their holidays, when our lunch ladies and our janitors and some of our low-paid workers and also our student teachers could be taking part in projects and helping raise the aspirations of children in this country and giving them education as well as food. Childcare, and as a single mum, I remember what it was like to try and find that extra childcare and the cost that was to me, but not just for me, for other communities and young working parents as well. Safeguarding, we know that from some of the projects that I've seen in this country and indeed in America, that there are safeguarding issues. Some children do not look forward to the holidays for obvious reasons too. Training, education and skills, they were using young disabled adults to help transport staff who were then given jobs. So there were so many opportunities from that as well. The efficient use of resources. We have schools closed 13 weeks of the year. We have a whole workforce of people who are not employed during the year. We have an abundance of food in this country where we could be recycling and reusing to the benefits of our communities. One of the things that we're kind of hung up sometimes in this country on health and safety, which is a good thing, I think. But the bottom picture you see there was a wee boy. They have a system called the sharing table. So when some of the food that isn't eaten hadn't been touched, the kids knew that they could go and put it on the sharing table, and they could take something. So if a piece of fruit or a sandwich hadn't been eaten, they could go back to the table and swap something. And it was a really caring, sharing kind of attitude. And you can see the little 2-year-old Toot with his big brother there. They both got a meal, but the big brother was chaperoning the wee fella out. And then the other one, the one you see at the top, was a school meals, a sort of central kitchen bit that was used to ship. And the quantities of food was unbelievable. What the Americans told me was that they were retrospectively looking at their programme now, and that they realised that perhaps they should have done more around evaluating an impact, which they're doing now. But I think there's a real opportunity for this country to do it and to do it better. So what have I done since I came back? Well, I haven't been sitting on my backside, that's for sure. I wrote when I came back, before I went out, I wrote to various policymakers and said, I'm going, and this is what I'm going to go and see, and I'm going to send you my report when I come back. So I wrote to ministers, education, of each of the 4 UK regions, and I have been very clear about involving all 4 UK regions. Although I still have a home in Scotland, I live in Sheffield, so I travel across the UK. So I wrote to all the ministers in all 4 with my report and said, here it is, here are the key points. And I have to say, the trust were absolutely amazing with the support that I've had before I went, during my trip, and since I've come back. They've been absolutely first class. I've presented at 12 conferences, the findings from the key findings. I've made government recommendations on what we should be doing as well. 12 conferences, 3 Westminster forums, and I even spoke to the Deputy Prime Minister. I've had a meeting with the Deputy Prime Minister to talk about why we should be doing this and what we could do better than America. But the lessons that I learned there were really, really crucial too. They've called me a lobbyist and a campaigner, and I hadn't really thought that about it, but I've become a bit of an expert, and all of you will be experts. By the time you're finished your fellowship, if you're not experts now, you're dash well going to be by the time you come back. Make the most of that and use it. And I've been on This Morning TV as a child food poverty expert, BBC radio, and I've been using social media. I'm an avid Twitterer as well, so using that was something I did. I've also set up, since I've come back, And as a result of all the emails and the departments that I've contacted, I've set up a national holiday meals task group, which is attached to the All-Party Parliamentary Group on School Food and the Feeding Britain report, which came out last year. There's about 20 different organisations in that, and we are drawing up guidelines for anybody who would like to start a holiday meal programme, or is going to invest in a holiday meal programme. They're almost finished, and these will be disseminated throughout the UK and reviewed hopefully by government agencies in all the 4 UK regions as well. They're going to be called Filling the Holiday Gap. We asked children specifically what they wanted, and they said they didn't want it to be about food or hunger. They said that it was about filling the gap, because if children's parents can't afford food, you're dash sure that they won't be able to afford a wee trip to Alton Towers as well. So it's about more than just the food, it's about raising aspirations and education. We're very much of the mind that it should be about giving enrichment and education and not just food. And because America, I found it was very much about food, and I think that the UK can do better. We've got an event in Sheffield Hallam University. We're looking at research around this as well. I'm looking at pilots, investigating pilots and hopefully in all the UK regions as well, and research opportunities I'm discussing with universities. And that's the other thing I would say, is that thinking about what you do when you come back, to me, that was the crucial bit. I needed that evidence to go and say, this is what has to change. And how to articulate that in your report is really, really important, with your key findings and when you come back. And who you're going to tell about your project and what you've learnt is really important as well, what you do with it. I'm also speaking to industry about how they might fund clubs, and an awareness raising campaign which will be called Filling the Holiday Gap. I could probably stand here all day and tell you the stories and everything that I did when I was on the Churchill Fellowship, and I cannot tell you how much it has changed my life. But what I hope is it will change the life of others. That's what I really hope. Make time for fun on your trip. I love Macy's, and I got the opportunity to go to Macy's and have family with me as well. So make time for fun when you go there too. And that was the one thing that the fellowship did tell us as well. You know, take the opportunity to have some downtime too, and do that as well. But I'm very happy to talk to anybody afterwards about the things that I've learnt, or that's just a fraction. This morning I was at the General Boilermakers talking about, I didn't think I would be speaking at the General Boilermakers, but this morning I was speaking to the National Secretary of the General Boilermakers Union, who, and I don't think they make boilers anymore, but talking about how contracts for lunch ladies who might want to work in the summer would be affected if they did. And that's just as a result of the Winston Churchill Fellowship. How amazing is that? But I am so envious of you all going on your trips. Many congratulations for what you've achieved and what you will achieve in the future. Thank you.